Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday. I will tell you, it's a little weird to be on live on Thursdays because Thursday, usually not in front of the camera until Thursday nights when we do True Crime and Wine Time. I hope everyone has had a great week and is enjoying the fall weather. I know I am. I am Terry True Crime, and welcome to Midday Missing, where we highlight current missing person cases that need more attention. And if you're new here, TCWT Media brings you a range of true crime and non true crime content. Yes, guys, we're not all about the dark stuff. We are dedicated to bringing you compelling content in a safe and supportive community. That is one of the most important things to us. Under our TCWT media umbrella, we produce the True Crime and Wine Time, which was our flagship podcast, The Hey Ho Show, the investigation into the disappearance of Chase Lackey, Night Court, the transcripts, Women on Death Row, Dearest Mother's Darkest Secrets, and Midday Missing. And guys, we have several new shows coming in the new year with some new hosts. So, lots of exciting things. So, we stream live several days a week, plus, we drop video, other content. You want to subscribe to our channel. It is free so that you get notifications of what's going on. And if you want to get alerted right before a show starts or when something drops, after you subscribe, hit that notification button and you will get notified. Now, I did want to take a chance and just say if you haven't seen our special, The Investigation into the Disappearance of Chase Lackey, you need to watch it. We are working on an update. We are just challenged with that update because there's information that we have that we cannot share with the public due to safety concerns and because of people involved. But I also wanted to take this chance to say tomorrow, Chase Lackey will be 33 years old. And when I decided to jump into Chase's case, I've often said it was because of the dog. Champ looks so much like my dog, Josie. Then, after getting into Chase's case, learning that Chase also shares the birthday with Monkey Butt. And the fact that so many people I grew up with knew Chase. It's been great and so interesting. So I'm going to ask everybody, please continue sharing Chase's story. He'll be 33 tomorrow, and we want to keep his family in our thoughts because 33 is a big deal. He should be celebrating his birthday, and instead we are trying to find him. Um, Also, about our TCWT community, we also have channel membership. If you want to get early access to select shows, and if you want exclusive content, we release behind the scenes footage, members only chats, bonus episodes, all kind of cool stuff. There's multiple membership levels that you can join. Also, by doing this, you help support us and keep the show going. Now, today we did move Monday's case about Troy Robert Galloway to today because I had jury duty. So today we do have a special guest, but I want to tell you a little bit about Troy. He is a Marine veteran who's been missing since January 13th, 2016. Troy was just 34 when he disappeared, leaving his Sonora, California home on a cold, snowy night, wearing only a t shirt, jeans, and sneakers. Now, over 8 years later, Troy would be 43 years old. And today we have his mother, Nancy, here to share his story with us. So I would like us all to welcome Nancy to the show. Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
And
Hello.
I also want to say thank you. I know it's a little early there where you live in Hawaii. So thank you for getting up extra early. Also, thank you for your patience with having to reschedule because of my jury duty. And thank you for coming on and sharing Troy and his story with us. Um, since I've started covering missing persons, I find it is not easy for family. So, my respect for you coming on and covering this emotional thing with us really means a lot. So I want you to know how much we appreciate it.
Well, and I appreciate you asking me to be on the show. It helps a lot. So thank you.
Wish I could go out and find everybody that's missing. So the least we can do is try to get the word out and share their story. So before we get into the disappearance of Troy, I wanted you to share a little bit about Troy's childhood and what he was like growing up. Because I know when we talked on one of our calls, he sounds like he was a great kid. So can you share a little bit with
Sure.
us?
Yes. Troy was a very easy baby, and he was a really good little boy. We had a lot of fun. He had lots of friends, and he was pretty funny. He had a really good sense of humor. Of course, he probably got it from me, but no, I'm just kidding. Um, and when he was in when he was in second grade, he was 8 years old, and he had a teacher who was an artist, and she would bring canvases for the kids to paint on, which I thought was really, because I'm an art teacher too. So I was like, oh, that is so great that he's doing that. So one day he brought home two paintings. One was of a killer whale, which I thought was really realistic and very good. And the other one was, I guess she gave him like postcards of different artists. So he did a Monet. We ended up calling it My Monet. And he actually, I said, which one do you want to put in the fair? And he said, I want to do the My Monet. So I took it to the fair and entered it. And for the 8 to 11 years old, he was only 8, and he won first place. And when I brought the picture up, I don't think I told you this, but when I brought the picture up to the guy that was taking it in, he said, "Is this your painting?" And I looked at him, no, it's my 8-year-old son's painting. So then, it's kind of funny. It was just kind of cute. But so then later on, when he was about 14, we did the same thing, and he got another first place. The one where he was 8, he was 8 to 11 years old, and so he got first place. So I mean, I know I'm really good at just figuring out who has a chance who has talent with art, and I just actually thought Troy was better than me. But so that was kind of, I would have a lot of hope for him on that.
Now, isn't one of his paintings, I hope I'm not getting him confused,
Oh,
isn't his painting up at one of the government buildings?
yeah, I think the picture just came up.
Oh,
That
it sure did.
that was me and Joshua. That's his son. This is when Troy lived over downtown Santa Cruz, and we just would take walks every day. And I just went into the county building because they actually bought his painting and they put it in a permanent collection. And so I said, I told them, if you ever stop putting it up, would you let me know so I could buy it back from you? But they just keep putting it up. I guess they really like it. So we went into the county building, just kind of looking around, and I found it. And so I had this one of the office workers there took a picture of me and Joshua because that was his dad, so that was kind of this special picture.
I mean, I know a lot of people talk about legacies and what you want to leave behind. I mean, 8 years old, and that is a legacy
Yeah.
that is gonna be there as long and that his son got to see it. I mean, I think that is so cool, and I've got a note down next time I go to the San Francisco area. I'm gonna drive up to Santa Cruz, and I wanna go get my picture taken with it.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause, for our followers, some of them saw the Hey Ho show. I was a guest on the Hey Ho show, and, they all learned I am not an artist, Nancy. I was supposed to draw. They sent me a topic I had to draw, and, I literally draw stick figures. Both of my boys are amazing artists. I don't know where they get it from because I am not artistic in any shape or form, but I think that, he probably definitely got that from you, mom.
Yeah. Yeah. And so after that, he was in, well, actually, before that, he was in Little League from the age of 6 to 12. And he started out with T-ball and went all the way through. And he did really well. Um, yeah. So basically, he was just a really happy kid, you know?
He was well-rounded, sports and artistic,
Yeah.
I think, because I mean, my son that is really, really artistic does not have an athletic bone in his poor little body. Um,
Yeah.
but so that's cool. Now we
Everybody
saw what?
talent. Everybody has their own talents.
They do. They
Yeah.
do. Now, as we see these pictures, we see that Troy was a Marine. What was his motivation for joining the Marines?
You know, I was thinking about that last night a lot, but I think part of it, there was a recruiter who came to his high school and just invited whoever was interested to go and work out at a local park. And so Troy really liked that. I think he really wanted to prove his manhood in a way. And also his dad was a Marine and he was
Oh.
in Vietnam. So, you know, I think that was a motivator, is just wanting to become a man, you know, and getting structure and discipline.
How do you think that experience shaped him being in the
Oh,
military? Was it a
you know,
positive?
it was positive. When his dad and I went to his graduation from boot camp, all the recruits or whatever, well, they were Marines by then. They march up in this huge, like in their platoon, they march up to their parents, you know. And we were standing there, where's Troy? Where's Troy? We didn't even recognize him. He was standing so straight, and he had that face of, you know, they look like a little bit stern or whatever, but no smiling, you know, and we just didn't recognize him. It was just amazing. And then I just started noticing his manners, and you know, just it really, I think he got really good survival skills.
Mhm.
And I think that made him very confident in himself.
Yeah, I've often said, I work for a company in Finland, and one of the things that I think is kind of cool, everybody has to go into the military. It may only be a 6-month stint, but everybody does it, and then you're in the reserves in case they ever need it. And I've talked to people there, and they're like, "Yeah, it also gives them time to mature and helps give them some of those skills that are life skills."
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Well, in fact, when Troy went missing, that was one thing I thought about was, well, he has all the skills to survive, you know, but
Right.
so, so
Well,
yeah,
I will say he was very handsome in his uniform. I'm not one. I have girlfriends who go all gaga over uniforms. I'm not one of those, but I was like, he was a very striking Marine, very
yeah,
striking Marine.
yeah.
Now, let's get to the not so great stuff. Can you tell
Okay.
us about the days leading up to Troy's disappearance? And then I want to get into what your reaction was when you heard he was missing.
Yeah. So Troy and Kelsey was pregnant with Hope. They moved up to Sonora because her parents live up in the area there, and I understood that. So they moved up there in March of 2015. I think it was March, around that time. And I went up there when the baby was born in June. I went up, and Troy's dad went up as well. We're divorced, but at the time we both went up and saw the baby and spent some time. I went up there a couple times, and then in October, Troy, Kelsey, and Hope came down to Santa Cruz and right around Halloween, and we had a really good visit for 3 days, and I was really impressed with their little family. And Joshua was there, and he got to see his sister, and you know, it was really cool. And then and for Thanksgiving, I actually drove up to Calaveras and had Thanksgiving with them. I didn't take Joshua with me that time because he had other plans, but I did go, and we had a nice time. And then in December, like December 19th and 20th, the weekend, I drove up with Joshua, and we spent the weekend there, and we went to the snow, and we had a really nice time. So he seemed to be doing really well. And in fact, I'll tell you about that later. Okay. So let's see. I'm
So
sorry.
that's okay. So Troy had 2 kids. He had a son and a daughter. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, Joshua and Hope.
And Hope.
Hope is good.
Um,
He's going to
Now,
be. Oh, go ahead.
when was Troy reported missing, and who reported him, and how did you find out?
Um, okay, so he went missing on the 13th, but I didn't know about it until the 15th. Kelsey sent me a text, and I said, "Can I call you?" Because I'm old school. I don't like, younger people are really into texts, but I kind of like talking to people about really big things like that. So I called, and she told me, she said, well, I said, why didn't you call me right away? And she said, well, I didn't want you to worry. So I said, okay, so then there's one thing I was looking at my notes here. Sorry. Uh, Try not to do that. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, this is right before. Oh, yeah. Another thing that happened right before this is kind of ties into
Yeah.
right before he went missing. He called me in December after I left, so it was right between Christmas and New Year's. And he asked me to edit a story that he had written. And he has a
Oh.
LinkedIn account, and it's the actual story is on his LinkedIn account.
Oh.
Yeah. So he wanted me to edit it, so I did, because I'm a school teacher. He thinks I'm really good at that.
Oh,
I'm really
I would go to you too.
well. I'm really good at art. It's just kind of funny. So he was supposed to turn it in January 16th, and I don't know if it ever got submitted because he went missing on the 13th. So, but he was, he's really excited about it, and so he's in a good mood, and like I'm going to do this contest, and I read the story because I edited it, and it was really good. It was like pretty profound, deep thoughts. It was science fiction, but it was had a lot of messages that I was impressed. So he is a good writer too. That started showing up more in his adult life. But
So she reached out to you 2 days after.
yes, yeah.
Okay. What did she say happened?
Oh, they got into a fight, and he just took off, and he didn't come home, and so it's kind of Troy has substance abuse things and mental health, and he has um, he has relapsed in the past. Although when I was up there all that year, he seemed to be in really good spirits, and I don't think he relapsed. But so anyway, he also was in recovery for on and off, but mainly on during several years, and so I didn't really see that coming. I was surprised,
Why did
but
she wait 2 days to reach out to you? I mean, I know she said she didn't want you to worry, but 2 days is a bit
I
much, in
yeah,
my opinion.
I couldn't answer that question for you,
Okay. Now,
but
when did she report to the police that he was missing?
okay. So she reported on the 15th,
Okay.
2 days later. She reported. I'm pretty sure she might have done it on the phone, because she had told me when I talked to her that she was going to report, because it was that day when she called me on Friday, or talked to me on Friday. She reported it to the Sonora Police Department, and I don't think she knew, but the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Department is the the people that would have jurisdiction where they live. They didn't live right in Sonora, but they live kind of out a little bit, and so that happens a lot where sheriffs, they go out in the more rural areas. But so what happened was, nobody ever called me, and as far as from the Sonora Police Department or Tuolumne. So I
You said
finally,
they didn't call you?
no, they didn't call me. And so I
Okay.
called them. And what happened, this is what happened. I laugh when I'm nervous. Sorry. It's not
No.
really funny. It's not funny at all. Um, they, so Sonora Police Department sent the paperwork over to the Tuolumne Sheriff's
Mhm.
Department, apparently. So I called them. They said, no, you need to call Tuolumne County Sheriff. Okay, I called them. They said, no, you need to call Sonora, because Sonora did the actual report. So I guess they looked it up. I'm not really sure. But so I called back and forth like 4 times. And finally, I just got a little bit fed up. And I said, hey, I just want to find out what's going on with my son's case. Somebody knows. And, so you need to let me know. And so the next day I got a call from the sergeant in the detective division, and he said, oh, I'm sorry about that. The paperwork, nobody's claiming where it got stuck or where,
They're not
nobody's,
gonna own up to their mistakes. Let's
no,
just put it
no,
out there. They're not.
yeah, yeah, they're not. But personally, I feel like I was sitting on someone's desk on the bottom of a bunch of papers, and they just didn't, do anything about it. And this sergeant was really nice to me, and he said, well, we had another person up here he was from Santa Cruz, and he went missing, and about 3 months later he showed up to his parents' house in Sonora. And so I went, oh, I kind of thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And then when I called later down the line, maybe at 5 or 6 months, he said the same exact thing, except for he changed the amount of time the kid had been missing. So I knew he was lying to me. I mean, I have a really good memory, so I know remember when people.
I don't I've said this so many times. I don't know if they think they're trying to make people feel better, but
Yeah,
I don't get why they have to
I
do
know.
that.
Well, at least write it down or something.
I mean, why
You know,
do that? Now,
yeah.
when did they take it seriously and start doing a search?
Well, um, they took it seriously. I mean, I kept calling them. They said they were going to make a flyer for Troy, and they never did. I sent them our flyer that we made, and I went up there and visited several. I go up there a lot, actually, and I so they never did the flyer, and then around in June. So Troy went missing in January. In June, I got done with school, and I drove up there. It's like 3 hours to get there, and I met with the detectives, and they I told so I went, and then after we met with the detectives, I went over to where Troy lived, and I started talking to the neighbors. One of my friends was with me, and she's really comfortable just talking to anybody. So we started talking to different neighbors, and one of them said that her husband, and he it to us as well, that he was working with Troy, doing some kind of repair work or something. They were the HOA managers, and
Mhm.
so he said Troy was in good spirits. He didn't seem, like he had any problems or anything. And that was just like a day or the day of. I'm not sure. Um, so yeah, so we met all the neighbors, and then while I was talking to the HOA managers, this guy came up. He was a kind of the caretaker of the lake.
Mhm.
The lake was Crystal Falls Lake. It was down not too far from Troy's house. And he said, "Oh yeah, he just mentioned it." There was a big to do going on um, that night, and I don't know if he knew specifically the date, but he said during that time there was something going on. So I immediately, the HOA people took me down to the neighbors' houses who there was the big event happened, and I talked with them, and they told me that there was someone in their yards, the dogs were barking, and that one attacked this person. At that time, we didn't know it was Troy, but um, just she told me, one of the things she said to me was, the person that was being attacked by the dog said, "Hey, get out of here," like that. And I knew immediately that was Troy, because that's what he would do. He would just, probably hit at it, go, "Get
Right.
out of here."
And
And
this was on the same night that he was last seen?
exactly,
Okay.
yes. And so I got information from both the neighbors. So they were very nice to me. And, so I got lots of information. So I immediately called the sheriff's department and told them I got this information. And, and I had talked to the neighbors, and have you guys gone out there and interviewed anybody?
Yeah.
And they had not interviewed. I'm sure they interviewed Kelsey somewhat, and then they
Did
interviewed
you
me,
say
but
why they didn't?
it was that old voluntary missing, that kind of thing. And I think when I started calling and getting on their case, they went, "Oh, there are people that care," You know what I mean? Like, because
Mhm.
I was relentless. I mean, I wasn't going to let them, especially after they mess with the paperwork. I was like,
Right. I
"No,
wouldn't trust them.
I don't trust you guys. I'm going to be calling you a lot." So, which I did. But anyway,
What did they do with that information? Did they decide to
they um, they had a really good detective who we went up and met and talked about all that, and they started interviewing the neighbors, and they looked for, you know, people that had cameras on their homes, but they at that point there wasn't a whole lot that they got, unfortunately, because it's kind of like it's a rural, it's a neighborhood, it's a big neighborhood, but it's on the rural side, so I
Right.
don't know, but anyway, so yeah, so then in September, so that was June when I told them. In September, I got a call on my way home from work, and the detective said, I just want to tell you that we're down here searching this lake, the Crystal Falls Lake, with sonar. They had another department, like I think it was from Modesto, with divers, because they don't always have all the resources.
Right.
So they did that, and they had divers and sonar, and they didn't find anything. He goes, "So I'm 95% sure that Troy's not in the lake." And I said, "Well, what about the other 5%?" Because that's how I am. It's like,
I
well,
was thinking the same thing. I was like, "Well,
yeah.
that's not 100%."
So so then I think they kept those notes, and then 5 years later they did another search that was major search. So
Is that
yeah,
when they drained it?
yes, that was in 2021.
So
I,
5 years later, they
yeah,
decided to drain it?
it
What?
depends on. It depends on. I mean, I went up there and met both sheriffs. They had a changing of the guards, and I went and had one on one with the sheriff. I've always brought someone with me because so I wouldn't forget anything that they were saying.
Right.
But so they did. I mean, I was the squeaky wheel basically, and I recommend that to anyone who has missing folks. Just get out.
I say it all the time, the squeaky wheel gets the attention.
Yeah, and I'm pretty good at figuring things out. So I would tell my opinions about everything, and sometimes they listened. But
Why
yeah,
what made them decide to drain it 5 years later? Did they get a new tip, or did they just say, "Oh, we might as well?"
Well, what happened was that Google, they got a what do you call it when you have to get a search? What do you call it? A subpoena? Not a subpoena.
A
I guess
search warrant?
search warrant. They got a search warrant for Troy. They had never found Troy's phone, but they can go in. Google can go in
Mhm.
and get all the information. So they got,
Right.
yeah, a search warrant, and they can, at this point, 5 years later, they could pinpoint within 20 feet where someone is. So they pinpointed that Troy
Oh.
was either on the edge of the lake or in the lake. So that's why they thought, okay, look at this is, and there was other evidence and all kinds of stuff that they, got it. It was like I think also that they felt bad about because about not the paperwork getting
Well,
missing.
they should feel bad. I
Yeah.
mean, be honest, let's call a spade a spade.
So during that time, I was diagnosed with cancer, and so we had a very good lieutenant. His name was Lieutenant Davis, and he's the one that got this all going. I mean, he had to get the okay by the sheriff and everything, but apparently with all the information they had, they wanted to, get this done. And so I couldn't go up there when they were searching, but they called me every day. And I did let them know that I did have a, tumor. I had a major surgery and I went through chemo. And they just would call me and tell me what was going on. So it took probably a month of, they drained the lake for like 2 weeks. And then,
Wow.
because it had to dry out. I mean, it's a small,
Right.
I think I sent pictures.
Yeah, there's pictures. I've seen them pop up on the slideshow. Yeah, you
Yeah.
sent pictures, but 2 weeks to drain it. Wow, that is a big undertaking.
Probably in a few days, but for it to dry,
Dry out.
there was a lot of mud and silt and all that stuff. So they wanted to make sure that they could get down there and not get stuck. So they had excavators
Mhm.
and sonar penetrating. Wait, no, what is it called?
Ground penetrating sonar or
Yeah,
something? Yeah.
wrote that down, but anyway, yeah, ground penetrating sonar. They had cadaver dogs, and they had metal detector because they never found his phone. So anyway,
Did
they,
they
they
find anything during that
they
search?
called me right when I was starting my chemo, actually, and so they didn't find any remains, and I was both relieved and because in my mind went to, well, maybe he was on the edge of the lake and he went running,
Right.
and he got picked up, got a, like hitchhiked or whatever.
Right.
um but you know it was frustrating because I did want closure in some way, and yet I was relieved, that
Right.
wasn't the, so. But then there was a part, the frustrating part was there's a part of me that went, well, they might have missed it. Like, where does the lake water go? Did it go down with the water somewhere?
Right. Did it drain off somewhere? Did it flood? And, the remains.
Yeah.
So did it leave you probably, I'm guessing, with more questions than answers?
Yes. And it was kind of spooky. I can't explain it, but it was just because I started thinking about all this other stuff that could have happened. And so,
Yeah.
but he could have been, had amnesia because I don't, and he could be wandering somewhere, being,
Mhm.
homeless camp, or someone could have picked him up and did, who knows, but another guy went missing 2 weeks later, and I was looking at their profiles. They look similar. They're both like 6'1", brown hair, brown eyes. Troy was a little thinner, but they had that. It's just interesting that
That
if
is interesting.
if he wasn't around the lake, he was up at a casino, which is only a couple miles, like maybe
Right.
5 miles away. But and so I know his mom. We started a Facebook page not the one that I have now, but this
Right.
um, just a bunch of people that had missing, family members, and from that, did you want me to? Well, I'll just wait for your questions. I'll tell you
Yeah,
what happened.
no, I wanted to talk about, you know,
Oh,
because during
yeah,
this, you have
yeah,
to have moments of hope and stuff that he could still be alive,
yeah.
but I always wanna know what keeps a parent holding on to hope? I
Because you
mean,
love them, you want to see them, and you don't want that to be reality. Because when it hits you, it hurts a lot, and it's like you get blindsided. Like, oh no, he could be dead, and it's just like, I mean, I mean, I don't know what reality is. That's the hardest part. Is the not knowing is what's the hardest. It's just horrible.
yeah.
But so what happened from that little Facebook page that we had? Um, we started talking about we should all get together. So we ended up getting together in just a casual at a park, and people came up from because a couple of the people that were missing were from Modesto. The family member lived in Sonora, but they lived in Modesto, and so they came, and I was walking by this woman, and she was, sitting on the ground, and I was like, I wonder who that is, and my friend Jill said, "Hey, come and sit with us." And so she said, Jill said, "Nancy, I want you to meet Sharon Rocha." Sharon Rocha is Lacey Peterson's mom.
I was say, "That's Lacey's mom."
Yeah. So she was so sweet and so supportive. I asked her, I said, and Jill said, how can you help Nancy with this case? And she goes, well, just tell your detective everything that you know or think about. And that really, really helped me. It was a turning point for me. I was like, oh, okay. I'm not afraid to say every little thing. So
No.
it helps them, so anyway, so after that, every year we would have an awareness day. And the second time, we didn't have any speakers that time. And we just, at the end, we just got in a circle and said a prayer and just met each other, and got, okay. So then the second one, we had Mark Kloss. He's
Mhm. From the Kloss Foundation.
yeah, Polly Kloss's
Mhm.
dad. And I met him at a missing persons thing in Sacramento. That he brought all his stuff from his group, and
Oh,
so we
he's they do amazing stuff at Kloss
oh,
Foundation.
great. So I was with my friend Sandy, who her and I kind of got the first picnic thing together, and then after that, Sandy did a lot of work because she lives up there, and we started having awareness days, and they were like really successful. People came out, like a lot of people came out, and so we just asked him, do you want to do this talk for us up in Sonora? And he said yeah, and he came up, and we had from that one on, we had the sheriff's department uh, had DNA tests. I actually did my DNA there, um, and whoever wanted to, any family member could do DNA. And so they did that. And then the Crime Stoppers was there, and several groups that have to do with missing persons
That is
came.
great.
Yeah, and so then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And the next person we had, this is kind of a cool one, Susan Levy. She was Chandra Levy's mom. She
Mhm.
She lived in Modesto, but Chandra Levy went missing in Washington, D.C.,
Washington. Yeah.
and they finally did find her remains. But so anyway, I'm sitting there next to her, and this woman walks up, and I looked at her, and I went, oh my gosh, that's Marcia. I know who you are. You're Marcia Clark. And she goes, yes, I am. It was really cute. But so she waited when we were all kind of getting up and going. She walked with me, and she because I talk at every Awareness Day, I talk, and just briefly, I don't talk, I talk for maybe 5 minutes or whatever, but all the families talk and talk about our case. And so she heard what I said, and I think she said something like, "Yeah, I can tell it's really, a hard thing." And so that was kind of special.
Do they still do the awareness day?
No, I was going to get to that. We did have
Okay.
another, um, and then Sharon Rocha, Lacey Peterson's mom, did that one. That was the last one. It was so good. It was the sheriff came up and talked with me, and all the deputies, or not deputies, the detectives all came out. They all held pictures of all the missing persons. There's like 25
Oh,
huge,
wow.
big pictures, like poster-sized pictures, and they said their names, and it was so healing to me. I can't explain it, but and
I
then
have
Roach,
goosebumps.
yeah, and then I recommend, if anybody can do that for their person, it's just,
Yeah.
you have to have a group that wants to do it, which it just all fell into place. But just what happens is you get the families talking to law enforcement, because they don't always want to go into the office. And
Right.
you just you get a bridge, and
That's what I was going to say. It's almost like you can bridge that gap that's
exactly.
there because you don't want to be a pest. You don't want to think they're the enemies, and mistakes happen, but you
Yeah.
can get past it and y'all can work together.
Yeah, so that was 2020, or no, that was 2019, because we do it in September every year, and the pandemic hit in March 2020.
And COVID. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 2019 that was the last one. But and then the next year was the big, draining the lake and all that stuff. So anyway,
Yeah.
so I they had we just couldn't do it the next year because of the pandemic. And then it just kind of, my friend got COVID, and Sandy Lee, she so we were going to do it in 2021, and I was going to go up there and everything, but it just didn't work out, so we
Well, if
just had.
y'all ever do another one, shoot me a text or an email or call me because I will add it to my calendar and make sure I go.
I was thinking, this woman that has this, this is a Facebook page that is now there. It's called, let's see, I have to write it at
Is
the.
that the missing of
Yeah, yeah, I know, Tuolumne, um,
Tuolumne County?
of Tuolumne County. Um, she is really good, and there's two of them, I believe, and they're very nice ladies, and they are really on it. And I was thinking, I haven't talked to them about this yet, but because I kind of I was going through cancer, and it was kind of hard. I was tired all the time, so I didn't have it in me, but I started thinking maybe they would take it on next, so I don't know. That would be cool. I could tell them what to do.
Yeah,
I could,
you could tell them what to do.
well, I live in Hawaii now, but I could help them
Right.
out. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Now, I know when we had talked on the phone, you talked about a close group. Is this that group, or did you have a separate group of friends that helped you?
it was a separate group of friends. So when the message got out on Facebook that Troy was missing, on my Facebook, I think, um, my friend Jill from years back, her son JJ, was best friends with Troy in kindergarten, through elementary school, and he actually died a few years before. Uh, and so she knew, she has a really good heart. She called me and she goes, "Do you need some help?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." So we got together. She's very friendly and, kind of that person that everybody likes. And so we came up with a couple other people that we thought would be good. And two of them were Rayanne, that's, let's see, Joshua's grandmother. So the other grandmother, Rayanne. And then Elisa would kind of chime in every once in a while. That's her daughter. That's Joshua's mom. And then Kathleen, my friend, who's been with me and knew Troy very well in his adult life. I've known her for like 25 years. And she said, yeah, I'll do it, so that we all got together and we just started meeting like a couple times a month. We called ourselves the brainstormers. And I
I love that.
highly recommend this to people out there that have just get your friends, and people want to help. They don't know what to do. So get them together.
Right.
And then I fortunately had really good people with different perspectives and different ways of looking at things. So it was fabulous. And it really helped my spirit, and it motivated me. So anyway, then later, I think a year later, a friend of mine that I'd known for a while called me. He had been in law enforcement. He was retired, and he was also a PI. He calls me and goes, "Can I help you?" I said, "Well, you know what?" And he told me he was a PI. So I called him up and I said, "Can you meet with me?" So we met, and I brought a couple of my friends, and we wanted to make sure. Anyway, he's a good guy. Um, he ended up coming up to a couple of the awareness groups in Sonora. He had a place up in one of the little towns around there, um, Twain Hart. He had a house there, so he would come up, and and he helped me so much. He gave me an idea of how to get the FBI involved, which I did. And I'm going to say this. I don't know. I'm just going to say it. If you put in your letter anything about kidnapping or possible murder, they will they will call you. And so his son was a DA in Santa Cruz. So that's, I guess they came up with
That's a
that.
good tip.
Yeah, it's a good tip. And I don't think, because his name was Tom. I'm not going to get him in trouble.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
not get him in trouble, but thanks, Tom, for that tip
yeah,
because we tell people because we learned by accident that even if the FBI is not looking at a missing person case, you can still submit an anonymous tip online to the FBI
yeah,
about a person because
yeah.
a lot of places do not have the option of calling in anonymous tips.
Well, I asked our detectives, and they said they do have an anonymous line. So
Yeah, some do, some don't.
yeah, so anybody that knows anything about Troy, anything, please call. But so anyway, yeah, so he was great. He ended up saying, I'm not going to take your money. I'll help you guys out. I don't, because I was interviewing him to be our PI. And
Right.
so he was incredible, incredible person, you know. And so anyway, yeah, so that was in fact, I want to say about the group, we went up to all the awareness groups together. Every time we had a meeting in September, we all went. And I think someone missed one once, but basically they would come with me when I met with the sheriff or a detective. They would, drive me up there, and they would be there. And the one that they did recently, because they still talk to each other, we have a little chat thing on text. And, we still talk about all that stuff. And so the thing that they did in January of this year, we were told that there was a death certificate that was being petitioned for by Troy's wife. And so they went up to the courthouse. They drove 3 hours up, and they took the day off work and, all that stuff. Oops, sorry. I think I just dropped my phone. Um, and so they would go to any lengths. And then Kathleen at one time went up with me when we did the Dateline little blip that's on the internet.
Mhm.
She went up with me and supported me. And then she went up with me another time, and she went into the homeless camps. I did not want to go. And the sheriff said, "Don't go into the homeless camps," but she didn't care. She went
I
in.
was say I would that would anytime somebody tells me not to do something, that is an invitation for Terry to go and do it.
I know. Well, I didn't want to. I was like, okay, she's a brave woman,
No,
and
that's
we didn't
you
find.
have an amazing pack of women. I'm just
Oh,
gonna tell you,
yeah,
that was one of the things when I was talking to you, I was like, I hope if that situation ever happened for a friend of mine that I could be one of those
yeah,
people.
and they will never give up. I think they're very strongly motivated. They never say no. I don't think anybody's ever said no. So it's about Troy. So we want to find him. We want to
Yeah.
find out either what happened or we want to find him. So
Now, did his wife get was she able to declare him deceased?
yes, I got a copy. I went up there uh, in what was it, September? No, October, and it's called a presumed death certificate, presumed dead or death
Mhm.
certificate. And although when I read it, the one I got the copy of, it didn't really say that, but I don't know. I was just glad to get a copy. you
This
know.
just popped into my brain. I don't know why it just popped in. Did that change the way law enforcement looks at his case? So, like in Texas, if they move it from missing to presumed deceased, it moves over to homicide. Did they move it from missing persons to homicide within law
No,
enforcement?
when I
No.
found
Okay.
out about that, I called and I said, "Hey, what are you guys going to do?" I called a few people that I wanted to find out, like, how is this going to affect his case? And they said, no, it's going to be an open case until he is found. So,
Okay.
yeah. So that I was really happy about that.
Yeah. Now, what is the one thing you would want people to know or to remember about Troy?
Troy was a very kind and loving person. He was fun and he had lots of friends, and um, he was just a good person.
Now, so we ask everyone who watches or listens to this to please share the missing persons flyer that we will have on our social media after the show is over. What else can listeners or people out in the community do to help you and your family to get the word out about Troy?
Well, I wrote down this on my notes: BOLO, be on the lookout. So Troy's
Oh,
is everywhere. And I've had people actually they sent me a picture. I don't know who, there's a lot of, you probably know about these people. They're like web sleuths, and
uh-huh.
they get involved. It's like a hobby or something. And so I got a picture sent from Mexico. There was a guy down there, which could, that could have happened. I don't know. But I kept looking at the face. The guy was kind of out of it. And then I showed it to Rayanne and Elisa, and they said no. And I was like, I kept looking at his eyebrows. They were just not quite right.
Not
So I
right.
let it go. But I'll take anything really, except for if you're fooling around with me. No, I will not. You know.
Yeah. No
So,
patience for people to be cruel and do fake things. But I was at a meeting on Tuesday night because I'm the director of our county's emergency response team.
oh,
And we had someone from the fire department come and talk about when we do ground searches out in parks or in big open areas for when someone's missing. And it was interesting. I learned something that how they determine the search parameters from where somebody was seen based on how many hours ago. So they assume on average an adult can go travel walking 2 miles. So that
oh,
tells you if you don't get involved for 8 hours, that is 2 miles per hour that they expand that search out. So it was very interesting to learn that because normally my team, we just go and help do the line searches. It was really nice to hear how they
ah,
determine where to do the grid searches and things like that. So it's been years. Troy could literally be in any state or country.
right.
And if he
So,
does have amnesia or,
right,
something he may not know.
yeah. So there was this guy. here in Maui that went. They called him the Polly Walker because it's a poly is the highway.
Mhm.
It's the I can't pronounce any of their words, but
I cannot
like
pronounce any Hawaiian words.
so I'm trying. I'm really trying. But he walked up and down from Lahaina to the other side, which is Kahului, for 10 years. And he would sometimes sleep in the mountains, but he would go back and forth, and he would never talk to anyone. So finally, this woman and her husband, they were ministers, and they talked to him, and he let them know he didn't know who he was. So they did DNA stuff, and they found out
Oh.
he had a family. He was gone for
Mhm.
10. The woman got the death certificate thing, got remarried, but he still has, he went back to,
Mhm.
he was like an accountant and he was in the army. And I mean, he had a really nice family, so he
It
had a,
happens, and people I mean, that's why we try to say families can't stop looking, you never know. It
uh,
happens. It can. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in homeless camps that probably are some of the missing because either they've got mental health issues or they got into substance issues.
somebody,
And
somebody just sent me a messenger. It's a video of this guy that goes out and talks to homeless people, and he
mhm,
videotapes them and asks them, who do you want to say hi to?
mhm,
And
I've seen that.
yeah, I was like, oh my God, that's good. So the other things are the Tuolumne Sheriff's Department. I think you have that phone number
Mhm.
put up, and it's case number 1683. If someone wants to refer to that case number, I think that's always good to know. Um, and then our page, which I have been working on for 8+ years, is called Missing Marine Troy Galloway. And you can come on there and see what's going on. And you can go back into the feed and look, and if you
Mhm.
want information that, I mean, I constantly, I'll put flyers up, I'll put whatever. I talk about how I feel, and people comment. And I always, if you do a messenger message, I will get back to you. So
That's
yeah.
great. Now, I have to say the comments, I've seen the comments a couple of times. A picture keeps coming up with Troy in the back of a truck with a big
Oh,
cat. Is that
oh
a bobcat?
yes.
It
I'm
looks like a
surprised.
bobcat. I'm going, I just saw one of those in my backyard not too long ago.
Okay, so my friend got me this. I don't know if you can see this. It's a necklace. Oh, can you see
Yeah,
that?
I can see that.
That's Troy and the Bobcat. She made me a necklace. Anyway, so Troy, right before he went into the boot camp, he and his best friend went up to Montana and went camping. And so Troy had a cot in the back of the truck, and then Jared was sleeping in the front. And Troy woke up to this Bobcat in the back of the truck, looking over at him and purring. And knowing my son, this this is tells you how Troy's spirit is. The Bobcat jumped up on his lap, and his friend came out with a gun because he
Oh,
didn't know.
yeah.
And this is what they told me. Troy goes, no, no, he goes, no, 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 like that. So he didn't shoot him. But so it was just kind of, to me, it's really like a
That
spirit.
says a lot about your son and his personality. I'm a big animal person, and I can tell you the animals know who good people are.
They do.
And they
Yeah.
know even wild animals like a bobcat. I just assumed you were gonna tell me it was stuffed or they had shot it and he was holding it up. So
No,
to hear
I know.
that it jumped up there,
And you can
that is
see
amazing.
he's in the wilderness. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so I
I
just,
have to tell you, if I was sleeping in the back of a truck, which I've done a lot of times out in the woods, if I woke up and a bobcat was looking at me, my first reaction would have been to scream, and I would have scared the cat. The fact
yeah,
that your son was just chill
yeah, yeah.
is
I
amazing, and I'm glad they got that picture, and I'm so glad They didn't
Yeah,
shoot
I'm
it.
surprised I didn't send that in with all the pictures, but yeah, it makes me feel good every time I look at it. I just think, oh yeah, that's Troy. It's his spirit animal, I guess you'd say. So yeah.
I I now have good goosebumps because I love that. Now, and I think we talked about this, and if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. Do the police have any theories, or do you have any theories about where Troy is?
Well, they have. I mean, there's a couple people of interest, and
Okay.
there's for sure. I mean, there's I think so many scenarios that
Mhm.
they're just open. They're just open minded.
They
They
are
do
good.
thinking that okay, he went into the lake and he drowned, and so like when he went into the lake, there or he did either go on the edge of the lake got in the water or he went into the middle. We don't know. But a person that was a witness said that they heard splashing and that they asked, "Hey, are you okay?" And the person said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And that sounds like Troy too. So I don't know. I mean, it's totally open. They have so many different theories. I haven't. They're right now. They're in between. They change detectives like every 6 months to a year. So
Oh, wow.
I know. I've had several detectives. So they're right in the middle. One of the detective I was working with, he just got promoted, so they're kind of in between right now. So as soon as I can find out who that is, I'm talking to him because I have to introduce myself every single time.
Oh, absolutely do. I mean, and I have to say, been married for a long time. I've gotten into a disagreement or an argument and gone near a lake or a pond. And growing up in Texas, you throw rocks at them, you walk
Yeah,
on the edge, you kick and you splash the water. It's just kind of a place to go and, gather your thoughts.
yeah,
And we often say, sadly, somebody's out doing that, something nefarious can happen.
yeah,
There are bad people out in the world.
yeah.
And that's why I get so frustrated with law enforcement saying they're an adult. They can be missing if they want to. Yes, that is true. But just because somebody had an argument doesn't mean they just left their life.
Right, right.
Right.
Well, plus he get wet. He could have gotten hypothermia. I
I,
don't if you kept going because when I went up there before I moved to Hawaii. I went up and sat by the lake, and then I went up this October and sat by the lake. And we looked at there's a trail, there's a mountain that goes up to Crystal Falls. It's actually a falls, and people do hike up there. So to me, that's something that could have happened. I don't know. I
yeah.
don't. It's sometimes I just don't want to get my hopes up because I have so many times, and um, but I do. I mean, I'll never give up. I just never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Um, Now, as I said earlier, and then you share, you can follow the missing Marine Troy Galloway on Facebook to help support you, the family, stay up to date on the case. But you also shared that they now have that missing persons of Tuolumne County
Yeah.
on their Facebook page. Is
Yeah.
there anything else you want to share with us before we end?
Um, I don't think so. We've been talking for a while.
No, well, I want to again thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing all of the information about Troy. And I have to tell you, I'm going to be showing my husband that picture of him with the bobcat because if it was up to me, I would own a bobcat, a donkey, a horse. I would own every type of animal I could. So, but I do want to thank you for sharing your story, sharing Troy's story. And Troy is a very lucky guy to have you in his court and that you are staying strong and that you survived and you beat your cancer and that you are still looking for him because
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
That's important.
Well, thank you so much for having me. When we talked before, I really enjoyed our conversation. and think you're a great host. So thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody else for joining us today or those who watch it later. We appreciate it. Also, want to let you all know there will be no midday missing next week. We are going to take the week off to celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday. We will return on December 2nd. And what we're going to do to make up for taking that time off, we are going to cover 3 cases an episode so that we can still get the word out. And I want to remind all of you, please share the missing person flyers that we share on our page. If you see missing person flyers on your social media feeds, the only thing I recommend is just do a quick Google search. Make sure that person is really missing. Just yesterday, I had someone share one. I went and looked, and they were using a picture of a child that had been found years ago, and it was a scam. So just take that couple of seconds, do a quick Google search, but let's help these families. Let's do our part. Let's get the word out and do whatever we can. So if you're not already following us on social media, you can follow us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We're now on Blue Sky as of today, which just learned about. So on our Facebook group, we do have conversations. Reach out, be a part of that conversation. And remember, you can catch all of our shows on YouTube. Some of them are also on Facebook Live, not all of them. So if you want to see all of our shows, do head on over to YouTube, subscribe, and like the show. And as always, everyone, I want to remind you, especially around the holidays, let's, stay safe, watch out for crime, but watch out for each other's. And I hope everyone has a great holiday, and that we will see you again December 2nd. Take care, guys.
Bye.